I wanted to spend the full 30 minutes that we have together diving into tools and diving into labor categories and showing you where we're at. The idea of today's training really came along from something I experienced when I was a government contractor, where you always wonder about how other people were doing things, or am I charging the right thing, et cetera. And so labor categories are an example. What's my competitor charging for labor categories? And I'll talk more about that in a second. But because that information seemed like it was so foreign, or you really had to find somebody who was in a company to get that information, it was hard. Well, even right now, it's hard for a lot of people, and it might be hard for you to figure out how your labor category rates, your hourly rates for billable people align to your competitors. And are you doing a good job pricing your rates? Well, now you can get a lot of information publicly that allows you to see what generally your competitors are charging. Really, really good information. So I'm going to walk you through there. The bulk of today's training is going to be in there. So I'm not even going to use slides today. I'm just going to be full out inside of the tools that I want to show you. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. Today, I'm going to teach you part of that process, which is around, researching other people's labor category rates, what they're charging for their people to the government buyer. If you haven't done so already, I've got a newsletter out there called Government Contracting Success Newsletter on LinkedIn. Go ahead and join in there. There's a ton of extra information as I move forward coming into the coming week. This is where I'll announce next week's trainings. It's where I'll provide a lot more good information. We're really trying to create infographics that take a lot of information, put it on one page, and make it so much easier for you to consume it and then move on about your day. I know you don't want to be reading a ton of stuff inside of a newsletter. So we're trying to get really good at giving you quality information like what I'm going to share today in our newsletter. So subscribe to that. And then also, for those of you who signed up for the training and registered on LinkedIn that says you're coming, thank you. I really appreciate that. As we move forward and we have training into next week, I'd appreciate if others of you do that as well. Whether you're on YouTube or other channels, or you're here on LinkedIn with us, just register. It's a great way to say thank you to me and my team, right? We really appreciate it. But also, you're letting LinkedIn know that people value this training and they'll push it out further to other people. So I appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to cover down in really two main areas is what I'm trying to do, is how to look at just labor category rates in general and maybe see what the averages are out there. So I'm going to show you just an area where you can look at that. It's a great tool, and I'll explore that with you. And then the other thing is, I really want to dig down into your competition, right? How do you look and find your competition's rates out there? Whether you're looking for a company or whether you're looking at, for example, a contract vehicle, and you've got a bunch of companies that are on that contract vehicle, how do you begin to see their rates? That stuff is really helpful. And so you'll find a lot of good information in there. Also, in this portion that I'll show you when you're looking at your competitors, is you're not only seeing the rates, but you're also able to see like the titles they use for the labor category. So by the way, if you don't know what a labor category is, I use my terms. I'm not here to talk about the FAR. I'm not here to talk about some legal term. I'm not really here to talk about some complex finance way of looking at labor categories. Labor categories basically is, what do I charge the government on an hourly rate if I'm time and material, or if I'm firm fixed price and I'm just budgeting it in my head. When I was running my last company, we sat at like an average $125 an hour billable rate. All our costs, everything else was inside. I'm not here to talk about how you come up with your labor categories in any kind of depth on the backside. I'm really talking about looking at labor categories to go, are they at a good balance with your competitors? What are your competitors doing? And so I like just talking about labor categories or hourly rate as that final dollar. If I'm charging the government time and material, and I have somebody like me, I had a SharePoint developer, and let's say they were $125 an hour. First off, that $125 an hour, double that, and you have your annual revenue from a person. So a full-time billable person, or what we call an FTE, is bringing in $250,000 in revenue to me if I'm billing them out to the government at $125 an hour. So $125 an hour times 2 is the revenue on a regular basis. That's easy math, right? The people who manage our back office money, they can go into the breakdown of the cost, the actual cost of that employee compared to the cost of my office, the lease space, all that kind of stuff, right? I'm not here to talk about that, but we are going to talk about the hourly rate. So labor categories, really, when I look at it, and I'm talking about it today, I just want to keep that part simple. It is if I'm going out and I'm trying to get a subcontract on somebody's team, a small business or a large business like Booz Allen, I might want to go in and be an AWS software developer, cloud native developer or something. I might be a cybersecurity person. I'm trying to go in and I want to understand what rate to give them, because I'm going to negotiate it with them, but I'd like to know what the starting point is. I'd like to know what they typically are charging the government, because it tells me I obviously have to be below that unless I have some really special skill. But how far below it, right? So having that data, there's this great line about having data allows you to turn it into information, which then turns it into insight. So what I'm going to show you today is raw data. It's your job to then look at this data and decide to pull it out, turn it into information. And the insight is, what do you say when you're talking to the government about pricing or to your teaming partners? But having that understanding, again, remember, I'm talking about everything I always talk about is from a sales perspective. And I want to make sure that I'm competitive in my pricing, just labor categories. Okay, so labor category is basically an hourly rate for a person that's out there. Let me just make sure I'm good to go as I'm sharing my screen. I am going to ask at a different point if you want me to look at yours. I try to have a pretty good balance. But in the chat, if you got something you want to throw in, you can do that. Like, for example, I just noticed, and I'm not going to be able to look at the chat a lot. I'm hoping my team might text me or something. But I just noticed, for example, Jeff put into the chat cybersecurity compliance. Well, that's one of my examples. So it'll be fun for Jeff to see that. Okay, so let me share my screen. And we're going to go off to the races. By the way, if you haven't been to govconchamber.com's website, that's our website, go there. Ton of information there, right? I talk about the newsletter, but we have a massive amount of content that's constantly over here, so go check it out. So let's get started with pricing. One of the places I want you to start, and this is where we can find like average hourly rates. It's my favorite tool. There's other places, but this is a great place to start, is the GSA website. If you don't know this, GSA is basically the leader of contract vehicles and this kind of activity, right? There, go in and learn about GSA. If you don't know the value of GSA to the federal government and the value to you as a business, take time and a day or two and go in and learn. They've got a ton of really good information that talks about how they help contractors or how they help buyers. But the part I wanted to point out is they've got this pricing intelligence suite. And in here, they've got a hourly labor ceiling rates tool that they built. It's called CALC. I think they're changing the titles up a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. So if we click on that, that's the part I want to be able to show you, which is this next tab. So in here, I can start searching labor categories. Let me zoom in a little bit just so you can see it, right? Search labor category ceiling rates for GSA schedules. So they're not searching everywhere. I don't know what rates people are charging. For example, I did firm fixed price, which allowed me to have higher rates sometimes. In the GSA schedule, it's a little different because it's not only visible to my competitors, but it's visible to all the buyers. And so you got to watch that a little bit. But this tool allows me to just get an idea of what kind of rates are out there for different labor categories. And so let me zoom in. I just want to zoom in as I do some search and we'll come down. But you'll see it's got a search tool here. That's the place I'm going to play. And then down below, it's got the rates. And so let's just start there for a second. I said SharePoint. And as you start typing in, right? So here's SharePoint developer. Actually, let me use SharePoint administrator because one of my customers, I'm trying to convince them to get a little bit into IT support, not the advanced stuff like a developer, but an administrator, an admin support kind of person could slide into a SharePoint administrator type thing. It's a little bit of skill increase, but they can do it. So if I clicked here on it though, I can quickly see what these average, and the rates are all over. You can see them, right? But the cool thing for me when I see something like this, and I'm talking real world, I'm not talking conceptually. I have a customer I'm going to go talk to after this meeting, and I will say exactly this. It's like, look, the average rate is in that $100 plus. I can give you training that will help your people who are lower cost, like in the $60 an hour rate, $70 an hour rate, be able to have very good SharePoint administrative skills. So looking at this, I can say, wow, inside the GSA schedules, a lot of companies are charging $100 or plus. But that was what it was like back when I was doing it. Now that skill set is so much easier because the tool's easier to use. So knowing that, I can go in and say, hey, I can help you get lower prices, but also increase your employees' skills in SharePoint. So that's just a quick way to look at that. Let me pull another one up here on just labor categories. Okay, so another one, and you just start typing in and you can find stuff. I'm looking for cyber analysis or security risk analysis is what I was looking for. So these are analysts. They're at different points, but I might just try engineer 3 or analyst 3, right? And when I come in, I can start seeing these labor categories. And the cool thing about this is you wonder, where's this data coming from? And there's all these extra filters on the side. I'm not going to show you because I have too much else to show you. But this link, by the way, this might get a little ugly, but right there, can somebody put that link in on my team? It's just buy.gsa.gov/pricing. Put that in the chat so everybody has access to that tool, because then you can come in and explore this. You should come in and put your labor categories in. I wouldn't do it right now while I'm teaching you, because I'm going to go teach you other stuff and I don't want you to miss it. But as you're coming down, you can see the different rates spread across. But what I like is this ability to come down and see, well, where are they getting some of these rates from, right? And this is good stuff for me to be able to see who's charging stuff out there. So if I looked at this, it's, everybody's got their different qualifications. If I look here, the keywords that they have aligned to it, this is helpful for me to understand. But these are some of the experience or the information that's out there. But what's really interesting to me is the different years of experience people have for the similar type titles, right? And so cybersecurity analysis, 10 years, and cybersecurity analyst, or excuse me, not analysis, but an analyst, 3 and 3. But they have radically different years of experience. So it's an interesting thing. This person here charging $96 an hour is going to be able to have a much lower skilled person in there. So there's a lot of activities. I'm going to choose one more. And here I'll put in network engineer, because I got another customer I'm doing something like that. So we've got senior network engineer, just seeing what else they got, junior, senior. What I was really looking for actually is enterprise network engineering. So let me just see enterprise architect. So something like that. And I'm going to scroll really quick to see senior enterprise security operations center. Okay, so this one looks good. I can click on enterprise architect and quickly look at that range. And that's an interesting range, right? 116 to 228. That's an interesting thing. And it definitely talks to the fact that these guys are getting a lot of extra dough in there for what they're doing. So when you come into this tool, it's great. You just start exploring anything you want. I think I was using, I don't know if I did this already, but no, I already did SharePoint, but just SharePoint in general, if I did it, right, it does an average for all these categories. So I'm looking across the board. I was being specific, but I can just use SharePoint. And so you can do that same thing. I really want you to do that. One last one. It's not just IT and professional services. I think I was doing elevators earlier. Elevator. So here's like an elevator engineer. If I come in here, I can see, and this is really interesting. There's not a lot of people. What that tells me right away is there's not much. So there's one company down here who's got it, but it's interesting that they're in there, and I can go explore their contract vehicle and see how they put it in. What are they doing? But I'll show you a lot more. This rate tool isn't tied to everybody who's doing elevators, which is a back-end problem. But I'll show you a bunch more. So that was one way of looking at labor category rates. The next way I want to talk about it is on competitors. And so just sticking with GSA for the moment, if you go to something called GSA Library, and here you can go to, let me actually back up and show you how I might have got there. So if I just go to gsalibrary.gsa.gov, for whoever's going to put it in the chat for me, excuse me, GSA eLibrary, gsaelibrary.gsa.gov. If I hit that, when I'm in here, you got a lot of stuff, great stuff. You should look at it. It's broken down here by the common goods they buy. But what I did a minute ago, I was showing you, was right at the top is the contractor directory. So I can come in here and say, well, let me start seeing what other people are charging. So for example, let's go to Booz Allen. um, if I look at, and I'll zoom in a second, but here's Booz Allen Hamilton. I can click in here and see the different contract vehicles they have, the schedules that they have, right? There's a lot of stuff, and I can begin to click on these and see the information they have. And as I scroll down, I can decide which ones I want to see. So let me just pick this top one for a second. And right here, by the way, you can see, let me zoom in. So right there is contractors, T's and C's, basically terms and conditions, and price list. That's the part I wanted. The price list is priceless. Okay, I'm here all day. Got jokes all day long. All right, but you come down, you can see which ones they have price list for. So let's just start here on this one to give you an idea of what it looks like. So if I come in, I'm able to see, and this is for professional services. I'm not actually going to try to look a lot in here because what I want to show you was how fast I just went to Booz Allen's price list, and I'm able to look at this. And so if I scroll down, let me just put the page like that. I can come down and see some of the sins that are in there. This is just boring stuff. One of the things that's fun, though, is if you come into this tool doing what I'm doing and you're interested in working with Booz Allen, but you don't know anybody, they have points of contacts in here. I don't know where they're at the moment, but you can come through and find them. So two things that I really value in this price list, right, that you're looking at. First thing is it's got the labor categories already listed. So here's some of what they're talking about. Actually, this might be at a high level. Let me come down really quick. So this is a fun thing. You just have to come down with me. There we go. So if I come in, first thing I'm doing is you can see like here's financial analysts, right? I'm able to look at financial analysts and I can see, there's a different pricing they're doing for contractor facility and customer facility. It's ironic, actually. I used to charge more for the opposite of what Booz does, and I know why they do it. It makes sense. But I used to charge more for our people to be on the government site than I would on our site because I didn't want my people at the government. I wanted them all back at my office so we all could work together. Just a little side thing. But you can see their rates here. So I can look out in the next 3-4 years, 2-3 years, and I can see their rates. And so here for financial analysts, I don't know what they do, right? So let's go ahead and grab that. And that's the part I wanted to show you in a second. But I'm able to see all these labor categories, right? I can start coming down. Here's a media. Actually, I'd rather go to media specialist. That would be fun. Let me just grab this really quick. And actually, let me grab this guy. Internet media specialist. The reason I'm doing that is because this is live, folks. That's why I have challenges doing this. The reason I want to do this is because we do a ton with media, obviously with LinkedIn, and we have, we get on average now about 4 million views on our content every year. We've helped thousands and thousands of people a month, right? And so that's something that the government might want to have access to. So I'm exploring in my head, is that something I might do with a small business where we sub or something like that? But I'm curious on what that work is, right? So if I put in that internet media guy and see if I can find the description, which I can't. So I'm getting past those guys. This is where I wanted to go. So the second thing I really like about this, when I'm looking at my competitors, I can see their rate. And now I can come in here and see that here's what they do, right? Aid in design and the development of websites, contribute to web graphics. So basic website design, right? And so I'm going to scroll up a little bit and I'm like, well, what does Media Specialist 4 and 5 do? So here, internet-based media programs, lend support in building cross-team structure stuff, meet regularly. That's all boring. It's like, it's funny that that's a level 5. I think everybody should have experience meeting and talking about initiatives. But my point is I can start looking in here and seeing what they're requiring, right? They've laid this out really intense. Like if it was my company, I would have like 3 categories at most. I don't need to go to 4. If I'm at that point, or 5, that's too much. But I can see what they have and I can go, am I communicating that my team and my internet media person heads development of integral product and service strategy, right? Do we do that? It's ability to look in there and look at the categories. Okay, let me get rid of Booz Allen there for a second. And let me back these guys up. So coming back though, you can see just going across the board, just the sheer volume. If I go here to, let's see if I got SAIC showing up. So SAIC, I'm trying to figure out how to spell it. So they're also science something. So I hate it when people go by an acronym, but then you got to remember what their full name is. Science. I know one of you is going to put it in there. Science and Technology, SAIC. Why am I having such a science? There it is. Man, that took forever. But I could come in here, right? I know I want to work with SAIC. I could come in here and look for their cloud stuff. So if I'm coming down to, again, I'm trying to do AWS. Let's just see if I find them in here as an example. So if I look for AWS, nothing. I mean, I think that's laws, right? So it's not even law anything I'm looking for. So Amazon, this might be the wrong vehicle too. I didn't even bother looking at the vehicle. It's professional services, but it's not really the one I probably want. Let me just check one more to see. And this is live, right? It's figuring it out. But here's information technology, makes more sense. So let me try AWS again. Don't talk about laws. So it's funny. So maybe it's just software development. Software develop. Let me just try that really quick. Oh, developer. That's funny. I don't. So looking at this, even for me, it takes a minute to figure it out. Let me zoom and I'll tell you what I find out really quick. Hold on. I'm coming down. I'm looking at these jobs. So here's their job descriptions, right? The way they have it is the business system program system analyst, right? So I can begin to go look at that, and then I'm going to scroll really fast. Where are your prices? Not too fast. I'll stop at once. Oh, there you go. So then I'm able to come down here, and because I couldn't find software development, which doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know why I wasn't. Oh, look at that though. SW. I'm assuming that's probably software, right? So instead of calling it software, it's software. And here I can start looking at it. It's like, okay, here's a software specialist. Let's assume it's a developer. They charge low, so they must have another category. But it's this ability for me to come in and start looking at it. There's that multimedia specialist that we were talking about. But this is what I was trying to just introduce to you. You can look at your competitors' labor categories, find it. I can then go in and look at, well, what are you saying a database administrator does? We small businesses do not need to have what Booz Allen and SAIC has, right? And I'm trying not to go show you necessarily a small business, but you could certainly find a small business in here. All of them are in here. Their labor categories are in here. So it's all just good. Let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of that guy. So there was the pricing. And then this last one I wanted to show you. Oh, that's funny. I lost my list. Come back here for 1 second. So I was looking. So here, this was the last one I wanted to show you. So I showed you how you can look pricing and see labor categories. I showed you how you go into the tool to find the contractors. And so here I'm looking at GSA technology contracts. I can try to find some, not all the contracts, but some of the contracts out there where they begin to share that information with us. And so if I go small business for a second and I look at 8A stars 3, if I come into 8A stars 3, I can begin to find the companies that are in here, right? There's different category lists that they have. These are GSA stars 3 is an IT contract vehicle. So that's full out IT is the first one. The second one is emerging technology. So companies saying they can do AI, ML, that type of stuff. And I think they had to prove it, right? And then the third one is CONUS or OCONUS, excuse me. So companies that could work outside the United States. That's what continental United States, that's what CONUS means. But if I just went to stars ET and see what I'm looking at, right? I can come in here and I can start seeing the contract holders. This is a really good thing for companies that are looking to sit there and expand within the government. So I have a customer that's doing AWS software development, right? And theoretically, they're trying to target the Army. So it'd be good for them to find, in my opinion, companies that are in this 8A contract vehicle. And let me back up 1 second. I'd rather go here and go see if I can find some Amazon Web Service stuff. But if I come in here, right, I'm just going to pick a random company. And in fact, I wonder if I can do this. So here, I'm going to look for an SDVO, service disabled veteran-owned small business, and I'm going to filter that list down smaller. So now you can see that it's 192 contractors. There's like 1,200 8A stars 3 companies. I just whittled that down to 192. That's a good target list. When you hear me talk about doing the 7-step process for federal revenue success, it begins with research, kind of what I'm doing. Then it goes into targeting, finding the companies that you want to reach out to. And so here, not only am I going to be able to research them, and I'll click on it in a second, but I can find their names, the phone numbers of the phone number and email and name of the owner of the company, and I can reach out. But inside this contract vehicle, sometimes they have a program manager, so another person who might be different than the owner, who I also can reach out to. So if I just picked, I like Agile. So I don't know what they have in there, but I just happen to like the name. I think I got it. It doesn't really matter because most of these guys are the same. Oh, that's funny. So it didn't go to it. What did I do wrong? I don't know why I'm missing there. For some reason, it's not going to the place where it should. And I can always find that later. So hiccups on the live. But you can definitely, actually, let me do it this way. I said I like Agile. So Agile government. So I clicked on the stars 3 thing and it failed to get me where I wanted to go. But I'm coming in here and let's see if it'll work. Again, this is the beauty of going live. So I can get into these. I just don't know why it's not working today because I'm able to go in and look at the contract terms and conditions, and I can see the price, and so can you. And so this ability to go in there and see what's in there is really handy. As you go forward, and let me just stop sharing my screen. So as you go forward and you're thinking about, what prices should I charge, right? Go research your competitors. Go into that GSA tool and understand the average labor category that's out there, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is as you're trying to determine whether you're offering good prices or whether you can offer lower prices but still get a good profit margin. I never, ever, ever want you to offer a price that doesn't get you a good profit margin. Otherwise, why be in business, right? You should not be in business to sacrifice yourself. That's what nonprofits are for. But as you go forward, you're trying to make sure it's good, a good balance against your competitors. Go in and take a look at this. I'm not a huge fan of massive competitive research. You'll hear people talk about doing competitive research during capture. I don't particularly like that because I feel like it's just this exercise of busy work when you really you don't know who really is going to compete. But if you got a general idea of who's going to compete, you can go back and look at their labor categories, and that helps tell you a little bit about what they might be bidding, et cetera. That's a really good piece of information out there. So one of the things as you move forward is just check out these links. If I give you one thing to pay attention to as you head off into the weekend and you go into next week, we're in the February 2024 here. Take a look at the GSA tool and explore your competitors and see those labor categories. Take a fresh look at yours. It doesn't mean you have to go back to GSA and change your prices or anything, but just having an understanding of how these tools work will help you be able to do the job, which is sales, right, better as you move forward. Hopefully that made sense. If you got any questions as we go along, feel free to throw them into the chat or just ping me offline in LinkedIn. If you're not in LinkedIn, come on into LinkedIn. That's where our community is. That's where we're all able to engage with each other, message each other, et cetera. So remember, as you go forward, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.